That's what I was gonna say. I was gonna say now, like the
Yeah.
definition of celebrity has changed, and the Kardashians that are the closest thing I think America has to a royal family. Love them or hate them, that just is what you
Yeah, but
have
I
all
saw
of
that
this.
like way before, and I mean that was its own. I brought Kim to her first like Vogue event, and that was, it was like scandal. I mean, it was like really ridiculous. And I was like, well, she's like one of the biggest stars in the world. I remember saying she's actually really smart, really ambitious. Like she's everything that, you guys believe in, whether that's, whether the image is not how you feel like what's cool or present yourself. Well, look at it. I mean, I think the way that her role right now, like with Balenciaga plays, is really kind of interesting. And it is definitely mutually beneficial and being done really smartly.
I mean, you look at like I don't know if you've seen those latest like what she just wore to like in Paris, like that
The tape.
yeah, that was everything to me. I thought it was great.
Yeah, I thought it was pretty cool. I agree.
You brought Kim to her first Vogue event. I did not know that.
Yeah. Yeah, CFP Vogue event. Yeah.
And that was a major scandal at the time. People were like, "Are you crazy, Zach?"
Yeah. I was like, no, no, no. She's like going to be the biggest star in the world. And I introduced her to Karl Lagerfeld. And, and he looked at her and said, like, oh my God, it's like Nefertiti. And, want to take her photo. And that was it.
So do we have you to thank for this Kim Kardashian fashion icon that
No,
we see before us today?
absolutely not. She has herself and her family. And, I was, happy. I like spotting and, kind of having that sense for, you know, for people who are really going for it and ambitious. I don't would never take credit for somebody's own. She's her own hardworking, independent woman.
I just thought I would ask. I mean, but you do, like you said, I mean, how do you feel about people like, Kim with Skims and, like Victoria Beckham, like all these, it's different now, like, I mean, these are legitimate brands.
Yeah, I mean, great. I mean, I think it's always listen. There's always been, I think there's always crossover, and I think that's interesting. I mean, I don't think it's like taking market share per se, right? It's like they're creating marketplaces.
You gave Ashley Olsen her first internship opportunity.
Yeah.
Who were some of your early influences? Like, was it like the theater, like in what you saw at the theater, or did you have like, actors, actresses, like people in your life, like when you were starting out, like what was I mean, your dresses and all they're
Yeah, for
gorgeous.
sure. I mean, I definitely, had, my when I was starting out, I wasn't thinking red carpet ever. It wasn't really like on my radar, honestly. Like that
Really?
really, no, it wasn't like a thing, right? And red carpets weren't like you know what I mean? It was like red carpets were for like In Style magazine and maybe like Some Us Weekly. That was, and that was maybe some television. Like it was just a different, media force. But you could feel how important and intoxicating that was. But yeah, my influences, are like being a cultural received dish. So it's a large, it can be from like nature to, to Broadway to, all different kind of facets of the world and culture.
What about, people trying to break into the industry now? Like, what do you think the biggest challenge is now for like young designers?
Oh, I mean, I think that saturation. Sorry, I just lost an AirPod. Um, saturation of the industry is a huge issue, right? I mean, it's where I think that scalability is a challenge. I think obviously sourcing with the supply chain right now is really challenging. Pricing is a challenge. I think like how and what you sell is kind of in a moment of redefinition right now. And I think the size of a business is kind of in challenge. Like, I came from a time when the goal for any company was to become like a behemoth, or like a luxury house or a publicly traded company, right? And in some ways, then like the American financial system got behind that, in a strong way, but then, luxury and fashion doesn't have the speed of return as an app.
Right.
It just doesn't, right? So it's expensive. Fashion's expensive to operate and run. And so I think my advice is to start small, be okay with being small, and being able like find out like how long you can sustain something as small as possible. Because at the end of the day, one thing that always will kind of I think will always kind of keep things in desire is rarity. To me, like rarity kind of is what defines luxury. And it's not material, it's rarity. So I think keep something small, rare, get as much for young people getting into it, get as if you make clothing that you can wear it yourself, be your best. You are always your best ambassador. I think today you have to be willing to be out there as a public face of your company. I think like even the people you think are shy are not, you know what I mean? It's like they might be shy, but it's like within the persona, like you've become a brand in itself, or have like a really strong line, and don't give interviews and don't allow yourself to be seen.
Which is a brand in and of itself.
Correct.
And
exactly.
to your point,
it's a choice.
It's rarity. What about, look, you were there for many seasons. What about a show like Project Runway? I mean, do you think that that show or those type of shows work anymore?
I think they're entertaining. I'm sure, I haven't watched this season. I'm sure that, it gives an opportunity for talent, right? I don't think it's really representative of the fashion industry right now. It's its own thing in itself.
How is it not
But I'm sure like
representative?
being on it's the same way like being on The Voice is not representative of like what it's going to be like per se to have like a pop career, right? I mean,
Yes.
doing a runway show is very different than, it's just a different process, right? It's you're, in fashion, you're producing clothing. It's different than one-off per se pieces in a short period of time, with, you create your own challenges that you have to discover in fashion, or I think one should.